This is TWiT.
I skipped the iPhone 13. I think I'm even more likely to skip the Apple Watch 7, which pre-orders start this Friday, and you'll be getting it if you order at 5 a.m. Pacific on Friday. You might have a shot at getting it October 15th. Much delayed from the announcement because, I think, of the chip shortage, but also rumors were that the screen was tricky to make. It's bigger, and it kind of wraps around a little bit more. But
Rene, well, first, Leo, we need you to turn in your 6-color card to Jason Snell next time.
I know.
You skip 2 Apple products in a row.
And it's funny because I love the Apple Watch, but I have to point out the new one has the same chip in it, right?
Yeah. So it's close. It's got the same core. It's not the same system in package, but it's the same chipset, the same A13 core on the chipset. The CPU did not change.
So faster, but more efficient, maybe. Bigger,
different display drivers and different power regulation circuitry. The thing is, though, like unlike the iPhone, which is saturated, which almost all customers now are upgrade and some switching customers, the vast majority of iPhone owners still don't have an Apple Watch. And so when Apple's marketing this, even the iPhone, nobody expects you to get a new iPhone every year. It's only people like us or people on subscription plans who get it, or people who are really affluent who get new iPhones every year just because it's what they do. Most people don't. I think it's 80% of people don't buy new iPhones every year. They buy them every 3 to 5 years. But the vast majority of people don't have an Apple Watch. So instead of targeting Apple Watch owners, which are really small, Apple just wants every year to whittle a little bit away of the things that are preventing people from getting an Apple Watch. And full autonomy is obviously the big one, because then you wouldn't even have to have an iPhone to get an Apple Watch. They're not quite there yet because it's cellular technology and a bunch of other things aren't in place. But they're adding things like resistance, crack proofing and dust ingress protection and things like that. So it's more resilient for people. So it really is if you have a very old Apple Watch or no Apple Watch. And if you've got a recent Apple Watch, you're fine. Just enjoy it.
And I think that I'm probably the target audience for this because I'm still on the 4, right? So
you definitely are, yeah.
I skipped a couple of years in my, but I think that's the whole point, is that coming out with it every year just lets you decide when on the carousel you want to get on and off and everything else. I think getting on every time, I just decided there wasn't enough. I kept on looking at it, do I really need another one? I think this one's just fine. The stopwatch or the countdown clock and the alarm.
I didn't get the last one. Yeah. I just wanted always on, and I got that with the 5, so I didn't get the 6, and I'm totally happy with the 5 still.
Yeah. So
bigger screens, 41 and 45 millimeters, softer, more rounded edges. Unlike the rumored
the numbers
renders,
are a bit of a
square.
lie, though.
Oh, really?
Because so they wanted to make the screens as big as they could without making the casing any bigger, and it turned out they had to make it a millimeter bigger. But the screens are 20% bigger than the 456 and 50% bigger than the 0, 1, 2, 3. And they've
because of smaller borders, right?
Now.
Smaller borders is the key.
And getting the display drivers and everything put into those tiny little borders was the big engineering work this year.
Still always on, of course, more durable, crack resistant, as you mentioned, front glass, IP6X, dust resistance,
and brighter
WR50
when it's always on inside now. So
right,
the max nits didn't increase, but the indoor nits for always on did. So now if Andy or Alex or I are trying to look how long MacBreak is going, we can do way more subtle about it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Strongly urge you not to look at your watch while you're doing the show.
I love that they called that out right during the middle of the event too.
Yeah, they knew.
And it was no, we're not going to be coy about this. It wasn't. We're not bragging about the wonderful display. We're saying, we know how people use watches. We've been at the other side of that table, at both sides of that table. Yes.
This is going to be the way it is now from now on, right? The incremental improvements, because it's hard to make big improvements because
it's mature.
It's mature. They're at pretty close to perfect.
The VR headset and the glasses will get big improvements for 2-3 years, and then they'll be the same thing too. And then the car, and then they'll be the same thing too. Well, it's like TV sets in cars. Nobody expects their TV
Yeah, you don't get a new TV every year.
Exactly.
No, or a new car. Exactly. But Alex's point was great. It's it's a bakery. Every day they have to make French bread. You don't buy fresh bread every day, but you need fresh bread when you go to the grocery store.
I do.
You deserve fresh bread when you go to the grocery
But
store.
it's absurd when you think about how often we are buying these electronics. My microwave came with the house, and I bought I bought a rice cooker.
But there are new ones every year.
The same one for the last decade, Yeah, exactly.
So you should. Alex would be a good candidate with a.
My battery, my watch is, the battery doesn't last as long as it used to. And it's, it doesn't have always on. And I still am always amazed at how much I do use it compared to, I used to have a pretty nice Citizen watch that I don't know, it was $400 or $500 or $500 or $600 watch. It was the cheapest watch that I could find that did the things that I needed to do. And now I have a watch that does all those things. That for me costs less, and I just use it all day. Like the timers for the most part, timers and alarms. Like I just have this thing. Like, and now I have this thing. Like if I buy a subscription, I look down and I go, just remind me to cancel this in a month, or remind me to do this, or remind me to turn the water off in the pool. I'm constantly having my watch remind me of things as I'm working, just because I forget everything. So it's useful.